What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So in the current bull run within the US market, it can be very hard to find undervalued stocks. So in my own personal opinion, HighTide, ticker symbol HITI, which is Canadian Cannabis Stock, is currently undervalued in my opinion. So in today's video, we're going to look through my current holding within this position. We'll have a look at some of the charts to see if it is undervalued in fact. We'll also look at some catalysts that have accumulated over the past few months on this stock, and even some new ones, and finally we'll go through my plans going forward for HighTide. And with all that being said, let's dive right on into today's video. Now, just before we jump over to Trading 212 as well to see my portfolio and HighTide, I put up a poll about 10 hours back to see your own personal opinions if you believe the markets are overvalued, undervalued or fair valued, and 57% of the responses of 23 people state that they believe the markets are overvalued, with 13% believing it's undervalued and 30% believing it's fair valued. So here we are on Trading 212, where we currently have €10,769 overall in this account, 8,685 this is my own, and we're up over €2,000 or 24%. So I'm quite happy with this, and the reason I do believe markets are overvalued because this 24% represents 33 blue chip diversified stocks. So again, on average, these only should be going up probably the same as an ETF, the SP 500, about 8 to 10% a year. There shouldn't be any great swings. So for it to be up over 24% in a matter of months does kind of bring the aspects of a potential bull market or bubble and a potential crash down the line. Now again, I've made many videos in the past about what I'm doing when the markets do crash, so we'll keep that for another video. But for today, HighTide is currently my worst performing position, and that's why I believe it is undervalued, which we'll kind of discuss now. So as discussed earlier, we can see here Goldman Sachs is now after jumping another 9% and it's up over 109% in the green. Pity it's a small enough position, not even one share, but it does go to show how much the markets are kind of hyperinflated at the moment for such a big, massive blue chip company to go up over 100%. Now just underneath Goldman Sachs, we can see HighTide, today's topic of choice, where we have 45.75 shares, have €241 invested, and it's down 25%. Now that's certainly my worst performing stock out of the 33 at this moment in time. So currently, HighTide has had a very poor run of form over the past few months, which does not correlate at all to the catalysts, which we'll have a look at in a few seconds. My current average price for HighTide is $8.32, and it's currently trading at $6.28. On the 3-month chart, it's down over 17%, which is astonishing in comparison to the catalysts, which we'll discuss in a few seconds. On the 1-month chart, it's down 14%. On the 1-week chart, it's down over 2%, and on the 1-day chart, it's up 1%. Now, it's also worth noting that if a stock is down, let's say 17% in 3 months, that does not necessarily mean it's undervalued. It could actually be fair valued and correlated back to its correct fair value price at that stage. So again, just because it is down so much doesn't mean it's undervalued, but in HighTide's case, I do believe it's undervalued, and mainly because we can see on screen here a list of fundamentals and catalysts I accumulated over the past few months for HighTide. Now this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of imagination, and there's probably a few even updated catalysts here as well. But again, we can see the vast array, and again, you can even pause the video if you wish, because we have gone through all of these catalysts in detail in prior videos, which I'll link in the description below. But again, there's so many different catalysts that really do not correlate with the current performance of this stock. Now again, before, HighTide was a penny stock not too long ago, before it had the 14 or 15 to 1 reverse stock split to get onto the stock exchanges, the main stock exchange that is. So again, that is kind of one of the main reason why it is starting to fall, because it was a target the second it went to about $8 to $10 a share, and people started to short this stock. But again, this is a long-term outlook for a position. I wouldn't be buying this stock solely to get in and out quick, because I do feel in fact that it could go down another dollar or so over the next few weeks or months as people are starting to panic sell. But again, if you look through the fundamentals, and in fact even if you simply go onto Google and type in HighTide, it's very difficult to find any negative news on this stock. And in my own personal opinion, every bit of business they have done in terms of mergers and acquisitions, etc., some of the points here as well, they have done brilliantly, and I wouldn't have done it any differently myself. And it's not all of these catalysts and fundamentals the main reason why I believe it's undervalued. It's also because of the performance backs this up in terms of the financial results, especially Q4 of 2020 and Q1 of 2021, and even Q2 for that fact. And it has been time and time again very successful, and you can't fault anything in my own personal opinion. Now again, just to kind of give some kind of blueprint here, or black and white, I have no affiliates to this stock whatsoever, even though it might seem I do because I'm praising it so much in comparison to its current performance. But I do really believe that this has so much potential, and it's not one of these kind of pump and dump style scheme stocks that we've seen throughout the internet over the past year or so, since a lot of new investors have come to play. So again, you need to do your own kind of financial advice as well before you do your own due diligence. But in my own personal opinion, and again, everyone's opinion is different, I know, you need to do your own research, but I do believe this has so much potential at current prices. Now, I'd love to know in the comment section below if you believe you agree with me here or do you disagree. Again, everyone has different styles of investing and different opinions, so I'd be very interested to know in the comment section below. Now, in terms of some updates, HighTide has been busy yet again, and it is now on the Marijuana Life Sciences Index ETF, TSX or HMMJ. Again, this doesn't really kind of have any impact on their share price as such. However, it does increase their exposure to new investors. For example, if you weren't buying in this ETF, you would see HighTide on this list. So again, this is great for exposure. And now we've seen over the last few months HighTide starting to jump on to these ETFs, which is great in my opinion, again because it increased their exposure down the line. Now it's quite apparent and obvious that for HighTide to succeed long term, they need to acquire a lot of these smaller cannabis style stocks within Canada and abroad, and they have done so again by acquiring the Regina retail portfolio, which is boasting their presence, and they now have over 90 stores within Canada. Now, one of the very, very few flaws I could find for HighTide when first looking into the stock a few months back was to increase their presence outside of Canada and particularly get into the US markets. Now, they've certainly been doing that, especially because acquiring some online US based cannabis stock companies, which is really kind of getting them one foot into the US. Now, obviously, if the US laws start to relax in terms of cannabis use, etc., this will really be of benefit to HighTide. And as HighTide is the top cannabis stock at the moment, I really do feel that it has so much potential down the line. Now, there's a lot of analysts as well that do believe that HighTide has a bullish factor coming about in the second half of 2021 and into 2022. Now, we can even see here that it's up over 343% year on year, and year to date it's up 130+%. Now, as you can imagine, for a stock going up that much, it has to have a bit of a consolidation and fall down as well. So there has been a lot of hype around HighTide a few months back, and that has died down a bit. In fact, that makes it one of the main reasons why it has consolidated, as well as people shorting the stock after the reverse split. But long term, I do believe in the next 6 to 12 months, and that I know it's not long term at all, but in terms of the start of a long term outlook, this is when you will start to see HighTide moving back up the ranks. And kind of one of the main reasons as well, you could say, hang on, if you only have 47 or so shares within the stock, why don't you have more if you believe it has so much potential? Well, that's because I do believe it is going to drop a few more percent over the coming weeks, and I'm going to probably wait, even though it is down about 25% at the moment. If it drops below 30% in my own position, I'll start loading up even more in that position then to drop down my overall average cost, so in the long term, I make even more of a profit. So with all that being said, that's pretty much the end of today's video. I just wanted to give a brief update on HighTide, ticker symbol HITI, as we haven't done so in a few weeks now. I just want to give an update on the current stock price and performance in terms of looking at some charts. And we also had an update on some of the catalysts and fundamentals on why I believe this stock is undervalued at this moment in time. Now, I'd be very interested in the comment section below if you believe HighTide is undervalued, fair valued, or overvalued at current prices. And again, everyone has different opinions, so I would be interested to know other people's opinions. One of the main kind of reasons for this channel or video, as in fact, is to kind of bounce ideas off one another, as it kind of opens up the floor for different investing needs and kind of ideas. So I'm all for anything kind of stock related in the comment section below. So thanks very much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you all in tomorrow's video.